We're going to be talking about the Utah Water Use Program today. My name is Quintana, and I'm in charge of the program. And I want to begin the presentation by giving you an idea of what the program does. Every year, the program is responsible for collecting and compiling water use data from public water suppliers. And we do that in behalf and in cooperation with the Division of Drinking Water, Division of Water Resources, Division of Water Rights, and the U.S. Geological Survey. The data we collect includes diversions from every source a public water supplier is using during the year, and annual water use data divided in specific categories. Once we compile that data, we normally, in August, at the end of August, we issue a publication reporting all the data that we collected. And today, the purpose of the presentation basically is to share with you why the program is collecting that data, how the data is used, and how the data is collected. I want to begin with the why. As you probably know, experts are predicting that the population of the state is going to double in about 30, 40 years. And if that's the case, we're going to start seeing trends, evidence that that's happening. And the most reliable source for that data are public water suppliers. Once we get that information, we're able to make projections to determine how much water are we going to need in the future, and to take the necessary steps to make sure that we don't have problems. So that's one of the main reasons. Another reason is that we study water resources. We get withdrawal data from water sources. So we are able to use that data using hydrological modeling software to evaluate the future impact of the trends that we see. We may see water declines in wells, water levels declines in wells. We may see changes in water quality. We may see increase in water use. We may see increase in water withdrawals from water sources. So we need to use the data to study the water resources, and once we get those results, the state agencies like the Division of Water Rights and the Division of Water Resources are able to develop water management policies to make sure that we don't impact the water resources that we have available, and that we encourage water users to maximize and to put the water to the highest beneficial use. Finally, in this section of why we use the data, if we get the data from public water suppliers, we are able to evaluate applications that we get here. And again, we use different programs that we have, but we try to evaluate the impact of approving applications. That way, that allows the state engineer to support his decision and to render a better decision. So that's one of the reasons why the program, and sometimes I say we, collect the data. And to summarize the reason, I would say the federal and state leaders, the state agencies, professionals, and private individuals are interested in creating a water use database that is reliable and readily available that is going to help the state to identify challenges and to take the appropriate action. Now that I talked about the whys, I want to talk about how the water is used. Unfortunately, I don't have this on a slide, but I want to show you tangible evidence of the way the state agencies, use the data in federal agencies. This is a publication that the USGS publishes every year. The title is Groundwater Conditions in Utah. And the data that they use includes data that we collect from public water suppliers. When I first saw this publication, I didn't know why we do it every year. But then I realized that this is so important that we need to stay ahead of the game. This information tells us if we are seeing things that might impact our water resources. So this is one use. Another use is concerning the state leaders. They use the data to establish budgets to fund water projects throughout the state to meet the water demands of the public and the state, basically. That's another reason. Another one deals with, let's say, the Division of Water Resources. They provide financial and technical assistance to water users, and they oversee 3 funding programs. So if a public water supplier is interested in developing, on doing something, let's say expanding their distribution system, then the Division of Water Resources is able to tailor that assistance based on the information that we get from that particular public water supplier. We don't have to be guessing and using the information from another public water supplier. Assessments. Again, the Division of Water Resources issues another publication, and this is concerning municipal and industrial uses. They issue this publication about every 5 years. So again, we get questions asking us, do you guys use the information? So I just want to show you how valuable that information is. Concerning proof of beneficial use. If a public water supplier is interested in submitting proof, that's water rights lingo. One of the things that we do a lot of things actually, concerning how to evaluate the proof. But there's 3 things we do. One is we tabulate how much water the entity, the public water supplier, has perfected so far. Then we determine how much water they may develop in the future. This is water that they need to show proof for. And then we use the data from the program, from the Utah Water Use Program, to see how much water they are reporting that they're using. So what we do is we take the amount of water they're reporting that they're using, we take the amount that they have perfected so far, and if they are reporting more, then they are able to submit proof for that difference. So to give you an example, if a public water supplier has perfected 100 acre-feet of water today, and they have the potential to develop another 40, that is, they will need to show proof for those 40 in the future. But they're reporting 120 acre-feet of water as being used. Then they're able to show proof for up to 20 acre-feet of water. And then they will have another 20 to show proof for those in the future. So that's another way we use the data from the program. Another one, and this is specifically addressed or concerning water users, public water suppliers, the information that we request is really simple and basic, but in reality it's really powerful. If we really think about it, when I first time saw it, my reaction was, wow, that's a very powerful tool. And this is the way that we can use it to determine the efficiency of a system. Like I said at the beginning, we ask public water suppliers to tell us how much water they take from every water source that they're using. And at the end of the year, they need to tell us, well, actually at the end of the year, they had to determine how much water, what the uses were for the water and how much water they use for those uses. To get the data that they're using, they normally need to talk to the billing department. So once they get that information, they have to compare that. And if they're withdrawing a lot more than what they're using, then that is telling them that they have a problem. There's got to be an acceptable difference, because whatever you're withdrawing, whatever you're using, is not going to be the same. But it's up to the public water supplier to determine what the difference is reasonable and what action to take if the difference is so huge. So that is one of the uses of the data. And now I want to talk about how the program collects the data. And we have two ways. The first one is online information. Every year, and by the way, this year we're getting information for the year 2015. And the reason is because they had to collect the data from the sources through the whole year, and at the end of the year they had to determine what the uses of the water are. So at the beginning of the year, we send an email to every public water supplier that has registered the email address with us, inviting them to report to the program. It has all the information needed to report. And by the way, the deadline is March 1st. The other form to collect data, I'm sorry, what happened there? Well, the other choice that we have is paper. 2 weeks after we email the invitation online to report online, we wait 2 weeks. And then we send the paper forms to those users or public water suppliers that do not have an email address registered with us, and to the water users that did not get the email. Sometimes the email is not the same anymore and we don't know, so we get that information back. So we wait 2 weeks before we send the paper copy of the form and the instructions to the water users. That is basically my presentation, but I want to finish it by saying that the program actually, to me, and sometimes when I'm in my office, I go like, wow, this is really important. Sometimes I have a hard time understanding that, how important that is. So the only thing I want to say to finish the presentation is that the foundation of the data that we collect are the people reporting to the program. And the reliability of the data that we get, the program gets, again, depends on those reporting to the program. So I would request your help to help us gather reliable data, because that's one of the main goals we have now for this year. And hopefully in the very near future, we're going to have that available to everybody. That's the presentation. Thank you. I don't know if you have any questions.
You mentioned that there is some data about water quality and quantity. Is that water quality data available online? My biggest concern is the amount of lead.
I mentioned that because the USGS publishes this information, and that information is available through this publication, Water Quality. We normally, do we have that information available concerning water quality, James? I don't
So
recall.
no, we only request water quantity data. The Division of Water Quality or Division of Drinking Water, they handle the water quality data.
Yeah.
So you'd have to talk to them about getting access to that data, but I think it is accessible.
Yeah, everything that I show here is available online. And anybody has access to that information. If you go to the Division of Water Resources or our division or the U.S. Geological Survey, the only thing you need to know is the title of the publication.
So if a city is behind in reporting their water use, the online system, is it only set up to report the previous year? So do they need to do that on paper, or is there a different way?
Yeah, the system is set up in such a way that it's available only to report data for the last year. Any data for the previous years has to be done on paper. Okay, thank you.
All right, I think we have a break, right?